Okay, I'm in the Lutheran cemetery, not far from the 1743 Lutheran parsonage, which is in the background. And I'm standing at the site of where the First Lutheran Church, at least that's what the plaque says, First Lutheran Church, was built. Now, the church they're talking about here is actually one that was built in 1750. It was what was called a block church, made of blue limestone. And the west wall, where I'm standing here, facing out down into the valley, that would be considered the front. And right near here would have been a road that went by not far from this door. And this road would be known as the King's Highway. I'll discuss that in a different segment. So it was pretty close to the King's Highway, but this was not the first church that the Lutherans used. In fact, we'll discuss this at the Old Stone Fort site. They borrowed churches, church buildings, and they shared them with the Dutch Reformed. They would have different services. But also in this area, in Fountaintown, there were private homes that were used as churches long before Reverend Summer came in 1743. So this is not the first church that was used. It was certainly the first church, the congregation, substantial church that the congregation itself built in the Schoharie Valley. And this church lasted until 1796. It survived the Johnson raid of 1780. This is probably where the story came from, in tradition, that it came from the fact that Johnson gave an order to spare the churches. He really didn't. In fact, he fired at one that was in the lower fort, which is now the Old Stone Fort, and they also destroyed the First Reformed Church in what is now Middleburg. So certainly that order, if it was ever given, was not carried out. But really, he probably just gave the order to spare this particular church, and the parsonage survived because Reverend Summer, he may have not been a loyalist. Clergy, he could have been completely neutral as far as he was concerned. He was just taking care of his flock. But his son, William Summer of New Dorlock, which is now Seward in the Sharon area, he was definitely a loyalist. And there's correspondence between him and the Mohawk war captain Joseph Brant about requesting his assistance. So he shows up on different roles of trying to join Johnson during this raid. So the order to spare this church and the parsonage was probably given, and certainly it was spared because of the Summer family. Most likely because of William, the son. But certainly that order did not apply to any of the other churches.